This is already the best interview I've ever had.
Oh, thanks, man.
The word why. What a curious word. The kind of word that can make us cringe, feel defensive, or even distant. But you know, sometimes why is the key. A key that can unlock so much to our lives. Join me as we explore the why with fascinating contributors to the world. Those that entertain us, inform us, teach us about life, and if we're lucky, inspire the next in all of us. I'm your host, Dr. Rod Berger, and welcome to Headroom, a production of Rainlight and co-produced by Old Soul. Let's go. A note about this episode. In a perfect world, we would be in a music studio, having a jam session with padded walls to capture the richness and the beauty of the life that is DJ Cassidy. But life doesn't work that way. An impromptu conversation captured that I believe is of incredible and significant value to those in the creative world and those just looking for inspiration, based on humans that care and are passionate about what they do. So, technically, an apology for the audio quality, but a big thumbs up and high five to DJ Cassidy for spending some time with this curious storyteller. Enjoy.
Look, this is such a treat because I don't know if I get to sort of hang out with the people I'm going to interview over sort of a 3 or 4 day weekend.
Yeah, prior to interviewing.
Prior to, right? And get a chance to just watch you in action, right? See you mingle, interact in your element. I want to start with this. And I say this because of watching you on stage and watching you with other people, even at the Post Malone event last night, right? And with Clef and everybody. You own the moment, but you also respect the moment. Tell me how that sits with you.
I feel like my whole career has been based on my admiration of my musical heroes. And so even though Wyclef, Shaggy, and Robin are my friends, I still, in many ways, feel like a fan when I'm around them.
Really?
And that holds true with the members of Earth, Wind, and Fire, whom I called friends. That holds true with Run from Run DMC. That holds true with Dougie Fresh. That holds true with a lot of my musical heroes. And I've always been very vocal about the fact that I think that those two feelings can coexist, or those two things can coexist. I feel that someone can be your friend and your hero at the same time. And someone can be your friend, in a sense your peer, but you can also hold them on a high pedestal simultaneously.
And yet so many people would struggle to own the moment holding both of those truths. I think the majority would, right? Like if that were the case and you were my friend and my hero, would I struggle in being able to own the moment when it was my time in whatever we're doing together, right?
Yeah. So, I've had years of practice on how to negotiate those two things and manage them. So sharing a stage the other night with 3 of my heroes who happen to be my friends at a show where my name is first on the billing is a very surreal thing. Because while I'm standing on stage, I'm picturing myself at Fuji's concerts when I was 14 years old. I reminded Wyclef of something I've told him in the past, which is the first time I met him was at the opening of the Virgin Megastore in Times Square. The Fugees performed to open up what was going to be the biggest New York, the biggest New York music retailer, which it became for many years. And I was in the front row. If you could call it a row, it was a store opening, you know? I was in the front, and the Score had just come out, their second album, the album that I think ended up selling 12 million, probably more by now. And I remember going up to Wyclef and saying that was the greatest performance I'd ever seen. Now, I was 14-ish, and I went up to him, and he's always been the same cool, normal guy. No bodyguards, just hanging out, accessible.
Yeah,
the same way he was today at the race.
Yeah.
And I went up to him, no struggle to get to him. I don't know what I said, but I know one thing I said, which was that was the greatest performance I'd ever seen. And I felt that at that moment. And he goes, it wasn't really a performance though, we were just jamming. And it's so, that quote of his is so representative of who he is.
So how do you line up with performance versus sort of being in your element and jamming? Because, I mean, you put on a show. I mean, it's visual, there's an energy, there's a sort of a pulse to it, right? And then it's what you hear.
Yeah.
And it's the artistry and the way in which you paint a picture by weaving in all this fantastic music. So was it a performance?
After 2.5 years of piecing together a puzzle of 220 artists and 166 songs, I've learned how to write scripts that leave space for improvisational moments. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't very thought out. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't meticulously plotted. And I'd be lying if I said I wasn't an obsessive compulsive a performer.
But you have to be, don't you? That's what you always hear the performers out.
Well, I can't speak for others. I just know how I operate, and that's how I operate. But hip hop, which my entire love of music and passion for DJing and career is founded on, was birthed on improvisation. DJs playing records in a spontaneous order, rappers freestyling, which is the word that's used for making up lyrics as you go.
It wasn't breakdancing back in the day.
Well, that was all freestyling, of course. And so, yeah, when I put together meticulous puzzles like I did the other night, I think that it's extremely important to design space for improvisation, because those typically create the most magical moments. One of, if not the most magical moment the other night was the finale of the show, when I brought on Shaggy and Robin Thicke to the stage again to join Wyclef in singing Bob Marley's No Woman, No Cry. Now, Wyclef's rendition of that, which was on the score, is epic, and it's not easy to cover songs, and it's particularly not easy to cover iconic songs, and it's particularly not easy to cover iconic songs from iconic artists. The Fugees do it very well. Killing Me Softly, Exhibit A, and No Woman, No Cry, Exhibit B. And there's other exhibits. But Wyclef has never done No Woman, No Cry with Shaggy, has never done No Woman, No Cry with Robin, certainly has never done it with Shaggy and Robin, and I've certainly never been on stage for it. So the four of us together doing it felt very special. Obviously, anything Bob Marley feels significant. But at that moment, if I had to pick one, which I wouldn't want to, but if you held a gun to each side of my head and forced not even one side, each side, I would certainly say, if I had to, 2 guns to my head, that the most magical moment of the night was the grand finale, when Wyclef, Shaggy, and Robin all joined together to sing No Woman, No Cry. What I thought was particularly beautiful of that moment was that with no rehearsal and no plan, they all let each other have space to sing various parts simply by watching each other and feeling each other's energy. I was posting videos on Instagram till 6:30 in the morning that night. I was just so excited and I couldn't calm down, so I just kept watching videos and finding videos and posting videos. And there's one moment where Robin goes up to stand with me and we're rocking out the chorus together. And then you could almost see Robin look down and go to himself, oh wait, there's another verse, this is rocking, and he goes back down, and you could see him come in, and Shaggy and Wyclef stopped, and Robin came in with a line, and then Clef kept going, and Shaggy ad-libbed. It was like they all had parts with no rehearsal, and that's 3 real deal artists feeling each other. It reminds me, and I'm thinking of this now for the first time, in drama class in high school. I wasn't an actor, but you have to take some kind of drama class, right? Like everyone does. I remember in drama class, improv. And one of the things that my teacher would teach, and I'm sure this goes for every class, is that the art of improvisation is reading the other person and allowing them to speak. You don't want to talk over each other in improv. It's like the biggest fail, right? And you also don't want there to be silence. You never want to say something that deads the conversation. So
it's how you jazz.
Yeah, exactly. And so watching the 3 of them, and it wasn't like Shaggy and Robin were backing up Wyclef. They all...
I mean, it looked seamless from the audience perspective.
The whole show or that song?
The whole show, but I mean, even the clothes.
Yeah.
That to me, when I was watching that, I kept thinking to myself, are you aware in the moment that you're in the zone, almost like an athlete? And if you are, what are you seeing? Because if you kind of step back, not that everyone has the dream to be sort of in your shoes, but let's just say, a young kid, you say, you're going to grow up and you're going to do something where people, just by the very nature of what you do, are going to feel better when they're around you. And they're going to enjoy being in your presence because of what you do. And by default, now you're going to have an incredible network of people that are recognizable. I mean, you're living a bit of a dream just from a human perspective in engaging and being social and really the power of creativity with other humans. So in those moments, are you aware, or are you really good at riding that sort of rainbow of energy?
I can never stop my mind. So when I'm on stage at a show like the other night, which is a big moment for me, it's the beginning of a new chapter for Pass the Mic. It's kind of the culmination of chapter 1, the beginning of chapter 2. The 10th and final show aired a couple weeks ago. And now I'm starting to take it to the stage. So it's really the beginning. It's really the past few weeks has been kind of the end of chapter 1, the beginning of chapter 2. I'm thinking of a million things when I'm on stage because I'm the conductor. So the songs need to start at the right time and the songs need to end at the right time. And I need to keep control of the crowd and to,
looking to you.
yeah, to dictate the energy. And I need to create the space for the artists to enter and have their moment. And I need to find the balance between interacting with the artist and the audience and allowing them to have their space. And I'm always one song ahead. So my mind is a blender of activity in those moments. All the while, I'm reminding myself to take in the moment because
That's the 14-year-old in you?
it's the 10-year-old in me. I got my turntables for my 10th birthday. I had no dreams of DJing at the White House. I had no dreams of this being my job. I had no dreams of making a lot of money. I had no dreams of being on stage with artists whom I admired. I think my only dream as a kid, and I don't even know if it was so conscious, but the only thing I ever thought about from age 10 to 18 was one of my favorite rappers knowing my name. Like I just wanted Tretch from Naughty by Nature to know who I was. Like Tretch was like the coolest man on planet Earth to me. I looked up to Run DMC, Michael Jackson, Bobby Brown, and Tretch.
You're Mount Rushmore.
Tretch to me was just the coolest person that ever walked the face of the earth. And you know, my parents were very supportive of my love of hip hop. You know, my dad took me to every concert that I wanted to go to, and I was like, you know, that little kid that was always there. And I ended up, you know, meeting the members of Naughty by Nature as a child so often that later on when my career started to happen and I reconnected with them, they were like, oh shit, you're the kid that we used to see everywhere. But anyway, back to the stage. I know I went on a tangent. So in that moment of everything I described, I am particularly, I mean, there's many moments in life, but particularly on these Pass the Mic live moments, right, which there have only been several so far. I'm reminding myself constantly during the show, while I'm emceeing and trying to ignite people in this, you know, in an explosive way, I'm reminding myself, yo, Wyclef's behind you on 3 enormous screens doing Ready or Not, and you're ad-libbing over Lauren's part. Like, it's, you know, it's very surreal. I don't take that moment for granted. Those are the biggest thrills of my life. And you know, speaking of Wyclef and I have known each other for years. He was on one edition of Pass the Mic about a year ago. But this weekend was really the first time we spent 3 days together. And it was the first time we really had the opportunity to bond. And that was, you know, equally great as the show.
What were you like as a kid? I mean, you were going to concerts, you had a supportive family. Were you like the other kids? Were you kind of in your own sort of mental space? Did you get along with kids in the same way, of kids your age, or were you already thinking? I mean, maybe you wouldn't have known it then, but were you already sort of processing things and sort of creating in your mind way beyond?
You know, I didn't dream of being DJ Cassidy for a living. I just did it. I was never thinking about the future. I just wanted to do it. I just kept doing it. And it became what it became. The dedication was real, but not because I saw it as a business. It was just because I wanted to take part in hip hop culture in some kind of meaningful way. And so I thought that DJing could be that. And it felt right away, and it was clear that I had found something I loved. I was always the music man.
You were.
I was always the kid on the school bus that brought the boombox, that sat in the back seat and played music for the bus. Always.
What age did that start? It's such a visual image.
At least 10, if not younger. And I was in the back row with a Sony boombox playing Black Sheep, The Choice Is Yours, playing Biz Markie, Just a Friend, playing Janet Jackson, Escapade. I can picture the Casingles.
You can picture.
I can picture the Casingles. You remember what those are with the cardboard? What was your question? I cut you off.
No. So like gosh, 99.9% of kids just wouldn't have the confidence to do that. Did you ever struggle as a kid with confidence?
Well, it wasn't vocal. Do you know what I mean? I wasn't emceeing the bus.
Yeah.
So, well, I never struggled with confidence, but hold that thought because I want to say this one thing. DJing is a very isolating activity because you're not in the party. You're supplying the party.
Say more about that, because I think that would be counter to what people would expect you to say.
Well, the image of a DJ in a DJ booth is a very real image. Even though you saw me on a big stage the other night, the image of a DJ rocking in a DJ booth at a club, for example, is a real thing. And so when you put yourself in that booth as a kid, when all your friends are outside the booth having fun with each other, dancing with each other, socializing with each other, even if you feel like you're the center of the party, in a sense, you're left out. So I always felt, I never struggled with confidence. I always felt, in a sense, like I was the coolest kid in the room, but simultaneously felt like when the party was over, everyone was going somewhere to hang out and I was going home alone. Part of that was probably conjured up in my mind, but I think it came from the reality of I brought the record crates home and everyone went to someone's house to hang out. And so I think that you could almost compare it to this image of I was always the kid who could sit at every table in the cafeteria. You know, all the cliques, there's all these cliques, right? I could always sit at every table. I was friends with every group of kids at school, but then I probably sat alone and ate my lunch. But I never felt uncool. I never felt unpopular. But I did always feel that even though I felt in some cases I was the center of the party, and in some cases probably I felt like I was the coolest person at the party.
And nuance.
But I did always feel
and supercharge your brand
simultaneously left out.
That's Old Soul. Shoot Matt a note at aoldsoul.com.
But
That's AOLDSOUL.com.
You are sort of the
And now,
nexus that
back to our
creates
guest.
that energy and that experience. I mean, I can speak from my own experience the other night. That was a musical experience, you know, and I'm in my mid-40s that I'd never had. Like, it was really powerful. And I had to fight watching you thinking, is he an architect of creativity? You know, like these sorts of things. So to think that it can also be isolating and then potentially lonely, I think is a powerful statement.
Well, I think all performers, I don't want to say all, I think many performers throughout the decades of the music business have expressed the loneliness that comes with performing in front of many people and then going backstage and then to a hotel or home by yourself. It's a stark contrast. I don't want to be so dramatic as to compare my experience to the experience that we envision Michael Jackson to have had in life by any means. But I do feel that there is something isolating about being a DJ for the reasons that I've explained, particularly when you become one at age 10. Because in 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th is when you start to go to school dances and house parties. I was always the DJ at these parties. So I'm the first to arrive and the last to leave. So you could think you're the coolest, baddest motherfucker at that party. But in many cases, you're kind of showing up alone and going home alone. But this isn't a pity party because
How does that impact
journey.
you as an adult? Like your sort of journey into adulthood.
I've never thought about that. It's a great question. I think that experience probably trained me to be a independent, confident person who could be alone. I'm very happy being alone, almost to a fault.
Let's talk about when you first started recognizing. I had this thought during the concert. I thought, I want to know. We talked about this at dinner last night. There were things I wanted to ask you, but I didn't want to sort of preempt the conversation we're having now. Let's talk about just music in general. Like, are you hearing beats at a different frequency when you walk on the street that I or others would just not hear? Do you hear somebody tapping a pen and it makes you start to think something, and then you're already sort of this very, you're creating in your mind? Like, tell me about the frequency, because you have to be able to hear things at a level that's just different, right? And that's your skill. That's a skill that you have. Kind of paint that picture, because I think that has the potential to be a very beautiful picture that a lot of people don't get to experience.
I don't want to paint a picture just because I feel you want me to paint it. The answer is...
Don't paint it if you get my point.
The answer is, I don't think I do. I think maybe Pharrell does.
You do?
Yeah. I think Pharrell, like the greatest songwriter and producer of our time, sees colors in the sky as he hears a song. I don't want to be so presumptuous to put myself on that planet. But I think one of the things that makes a great DJ great is his ability to weave music together in a seamless way to create something special, to put pieces of a puzzle together to create a puzzle that's special that others might not have put together. But simply and less poetically put, it's what you play, how you play it, what you play next.
So, inspiration then, right? Because you've got your heroes, you've got your, you've been doing this, maybe to 10, whatever it was when you started with boom boxes on a bus, but like, you like to be alone.
By the way, I don't know how many years you just uttered, but the answer is 31.
No, I know. I'm saying when you were 8 or 10, like back.
Oh, yeah. But I'm saying, when people ask me how many years have you been DJing, I tell them the answer, they look at me like,
31 years.
What? They're like, what? I'm like, yeah.
So then what inspires you? Like, you'll talk to a writer, and the writer will say, the sound of, trees in the background and writing out in the woods, and like there's certain things, I listen to film scores when I write on repeat, and it feels like it opens up my mind when I'm writing. what inspires you? Do you have things that you just know that if in essence you kind of have to get in the zone, or you want to get in the zone? You have some go-tos that are really just personal to you.
Well, I think one of the things that inspires me the most, not to rehash something we've talked about, is speaking to my heroes.
So having that.
So I was so inspired this weekend because Wyclef tells the best stories. And he told me some I knew and some I didn't this weekend. Stories about the first record he ever sang on. Stories, which was not a Fugees record. Stories about shows he did in places in the world that I've never been to. Stories about how some of the records he made were created. Stories about some new music he's making. Ideas he had for me.
For you?
Yeah, for me, and for projects I'm working on. Specifically a new record that I'm working on. Speaking to people whom I really look up to and admire, inspire me. Before we went on stage, Robin said, I'm sure Andre's looking down on us with a big smile on his face. So Andre Harrell, who passed away at the beginning of the pandemic, May 2020, was Robin's mentor and my mentor. And my best friend, O'Neill McKnight's cousin. I think you met O'Neill this weekend.
I did.
Andre, one of the most prolific music impresarios of all time. The godfather of New Jack Swing and hip hop soul. The founder of Uptown Records. Signed Mary J. Blige, Heavy D and the Boys, Jodeci. Later in life signed Robin Thicke. Had an intern whose name was Puffy, who went on to start Bad Boy after Andre said, you gotta go. And they, of course, maintained an extremely close relationship till the day he died. And Andre was, Robin's greatest mentor, and mine as well. And so when Robin said to me before, I know, he said it as O'Neill and I were saying, he said, I know Andre's looking down on us right now, loving this moment. And so that inspired me. So, I think I told you last night, the story of how I thought of Pass the Mic. I thought of it on a phone call with one of my heroes. So much leads back to just drawing inspiration consciously and subconsciously, and most probably subconsciously, from people whom I look up to.
Based on the relationship, right? It's that interplay that you have with these icons that are your friends.
Yeah, I don't think I'm me without the people whom I admire. I think I've drawn inspiration from everyone, and put it all in a mental blender and poured it out, and it was me.
Have you ever lost yourself in the sort of the growth of your career? I've found it's very fascinating, people who become incredibly accomplished, that there'll be these moments where they believe the hype a little bit and they have to kind of get themselves centered again. Have you ever had that moment, or have you really been able to successfully, over the 31 years, just monitor who you are? Because I get the sense you take it very seriously.
I don't think I've ever lost myself, because I never really had a moment where I thought I made it. I still feel like I'm trying to make it. And I've DJ'd for the greatest artists of my time. I've DJ'd for, the greatest president of our time. I've DJ'd for the most definitive cultural figures of our time. I've shared a TV show with 220 legendary icons. I've shared a stage with, a countless list of, musical superstars. Yet, I don't believe I've ever felt worthy of their presence. I had a little prayer moment before the show with Robin, Shaggy, and Wyclef. And I just wanted to say a few words before I went on stage, because I was the first, I was on stage alone for 30 minutes. And I thanked them and said, I thanked them. I told them how much I appreciate them. And I told them how excited I was and how much it meant to me that they were here, how much I loved them as my friends and my mentors. And I said, my only real goal tonight is to make the three of you proud to be on stage with me and to not let you three down. If they weren't there, I could do it with my eyes closed. I've been doing this my whole life. And I dealt with every possible issue there could be. Do you know what I mean? Like every artist has, right? Every artist has dealt with sound issues and light issues and technical issues and emotional issues, right? I mean, artists go on stage in bad moods all the time and everything. And I'm fine. But having them three on stage puts a different kind of pressure on me, because I take that very seriously.
I get the sense that you kind of cross the threshold, and that humility, I mean, it's fair to say you've earned the right to not have to be as humble as you are. But maybe that's part of the secret sauce, that you're still that 10-year-old with the boombox in the back of the bus. There's some power in that. Yeah,
I mean, I think the key is to never let go of being a fan.
Never let go of being a fan.
Yeah. There's a negative connotation sometimes, I guess, with being a fan. I'll ask anyone to take a picture with them. I always have. It used to be could I have an autograph? I mean, that's, I guess, somewhat, dated, because we all have cameras in our pocket now. But at one point, we didn't always have a camera, so you got an autograph. That's the only reason that changed, right? If we had if we didn't have a camera, that would be the proof you met someone. No, pictures are great. It's not corny Instagramming. It's called memories.
You're creating memories.
Yeah, it's called memories. I'll never laugh at someone for taking a picture. I mean, of anyone. I'll go up to anyone and say, can we take a picture? I mean, try to be polite and understand where someone is at the moment, but I'm saying, I'll ask anyone to take a picture. I've asked Chevy Chase to take a picture 3 times. He's mean to me every time, but I keep doing it.
He's mean every time.
Yeah, but I keep doing it. I still love him.
Tell me what, and you can define what this means to you, but tell me what failure looks like in your world, and or how you deal with insecurity when you do have the reel that you do, and President Obama and Oprah. I mean, the list is just, it's almost ridiculous. It's so powerful. So tell me about your relationship to failure, or how you understand that, being someone who is meticulous, who has to be in what you do.
The word failure sounds so powerful and so extreme. I don't think I've ever thought something I've done was a failure. I mean, some things have been more successful than others, and some ideas come to fruition and some don't. And if some don't, maybe they weren't meant to be, or maybe they're meant to be on, the back burner for a little while, and then you get re-inspired. There's many reasons why, the stars don't align. I believe in that. Stars align and stars don't align, and I don't know why. So I don't ever think I've had to deal with feeling like something was an epic failure. But I've never been the type of person who comes home at night and says everything was amazing. I've never been the type of person to come home. I don't frequently. I've never been the. I'm trying to figure out this. I've never been the kind of person who frequently comes home at the end of the night and says, "I killed it." Very rare. I'm very critical of myself. Very critical. So the other night, when I called my mother, who would have been here, but her mother just died, who was 95, my grandmother. And so she didn't feel up for traveling. So she would have been here. My father was here. I think you met him, or did you see him? I don't know. My dad was here. But I called my mom, and she's like, "Oh my God, I saw the videos. How was it?" Or her first word was, I think she picks up and goes, "So?" Like she wants to hear what I thought. That was her first word, "So?" And I said, "It was great." And she goes, "Well, if you say it was great, then it was amazing." Because very rarely, I don't want to say I'm half empty, but I'll comment on the one thing I didn't like first. I hold myself to a high standard. But the other night I said was great.
What was the first pinch me moment in this, outside of seeing,
The first song, the intro.
The intro.
Do you remember the intro?
Oh, yeah.
The intro. I'm standing behind this screen with Phil Collins in the Air Tonight, the most intense, dramatic song of all time, right? Like, oh my God, you're so fucking dramatic that you're entering to this song, right? Like if my sister was there, she would have been rolling her eyes, oh my God, what is he doing? You're walking onto this dramatic song. Who the fuck do you think you are? That would have been, that's a siblings, analysis and older siblings. So, I'm behind the screen, this 30-foot screen, and my image is projected on all three screens. I'm articulating this bad, so you write it better, you saw it, but I'm being projected on these three enormous square screens. I'm behind the center screen, the screen's about to raise, and it's the and then the keyboards, and then Phil's voice, "I can feel it," and the screen's raising, and I'm lifting my head, and I'm like, wait, is this shit really happening? So that was the first pinching moment of of the night. But past the mic, which really is what that show was. That was not a typical DJ Cassidy DJ set. Past the mic has been one pinch me moment after the other for the past 2.5 years. Is it 2.5? It premiered in July, August, September, October. No, 27 months. The past 27 months has been full of continuous pinch me moments. I filmed 220 artists whom I love. So right there, there's, it's right there with nothing else surrounding. There's 220 pinch me moments. And then I could tell you others, like doing Pass the Mic for Joe Biden's televised inauguration, like doing a Pass the Mic Tommy Hilfiger global campaign, like Pass the Mic live at the Pegasus World Cup with Ja Rule, Little Kim, and Mace, like Pass the Mic live at the opening of the Hard Rock Hotel with Fat Joe, Busta Rhymes, and Nas, Pass the Mic at Formula One with Williams Racing. But there's so many. Going to concerts and walking through the crowd and people stopping to take pictures with me, not because, oh, it's DJ Cassidy. Oh, it's DJ Cassidy, we love your show. So that's changed. It's now we love your show. So, so many pinch me moments over the past 27 months because of Pass the Mic. There were many pinch me moments prior to that in my life. We could talk about those, but the past 27 months has created a whole new tidal wave of pinch me moments.
Talk about President Obama and the impact.
I just set that up beautifully with the pinch me moments, didn't I? That's the...
I mean, I would think that if there's ever a moment where it may be hard to be who you need to be in that moment, it's because you're with President Obama and celebrating you know, an inauguration, just the power of what those events meant to the nation.
A first inauguration, a second inauguration, the president's 50th birthday, the first lady's 50th birthday, and a dozen others. If you look at the front of the White House, this is the front and the two columns are here. This is where the party was. Not like in some adjacent thing or like a tent, right? Like, you know when someone like a famous person in Beverly Hills, oh, the party's at their house, but then you never even walk in the house? You know what I'm talking about? And the party's in a tent, right? Like the party's at George Clooney's house, but you never walk into George Clooney's house. Bathroom? The porta potty's not even on the property. Okay, this is where it was. So when you write it, describe what I'm doing. These are the columns. You walk in the front door, red room, yellow room, blue room, green room, red room, the 4 rooms Eleanor Roosevelt designed. And then this room, after all these years, I still don't know the name, this room. And the room goes the whole distance. So on one end, you see the Washington Monument. On the other end, you see the Capitol building. It's that simple. And so, I mean, the pinch me moments, I could just tell you many. Okay, I'll tell you many, in no particular order, okay? It's Obama's 50th birthday. I'm getting ready to go on. Janelle Monáe is finishing her set, okay? This isn't like a show with seats. It's like a party. It's like people are standing and there's a little riser. It's like it's not like big to do. It's like a house party.
It's a big house party.
Yeah, 500 people, but 500 people is not a lot. This is intimate.
I just meant.
Yeah. And so someone taps me on the shoulder. I'm like nervous. I'm about to go into the White House. This was the first time. His 50th birthday. The first inauguration, there was no party at the White House. The party was at a convention center. It was televised, the one I DJ'd. There was no White House party. The second inauguration, the party was at the White House. So the first time I DJ'd at the White House was his 50th birthday, not the inauguration. So someone taps me on the shoulder and goes, hey, Cassidy, Stevie Wonder would like to talk to you. So first of all, why is anyone like asking me permission? I'm like,
it's Stevie.
I'm like, yes, please bring him up. Like, where can I walk to him? Okay. So Stevie comes over to me and is like, Cassidy, I want to jam with you for the president. Let's surprise him. So he goes, throw on a beat and I'll sing Signed, Sealed, Delivered. Okay.
Is there pressure going on?
No. As this conversation is happening, the president is now on stage. When I say stage, I mean 1 foot high riser, thanking Janelle Monáe, getting ready to announce me. As this is happening, I'm listening to Stevie in one ear, but like tuning out so I can hear what the president's saying in the other. I say to Stevie, cool, and Stevie just walks on stage. And we haven't been announced yet.
He just walked.
And the president goes, well, looks like we have a surprise. I didn't even know this was happening. And it's like, Stevie Wonder, ladies and gentlemen. And I go, oh my God, I guess I gotta follow. And I just walk on and get in position. And the president goes, and DJ Cassidy, ladies and gentlemen. This whole time I'm thinking of what beat I'm about to drop. So I'm saying to myself, what tempo is Signed, Sealed, Delivered? And I just knew what to drop. I said, I'm gonna drop Billy Squier Big Beat. Boom, ba-ka-ka, boom, ka-ka, which Run DMC first used for here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go. DMC and DJ Run. Dum diddy dum diddy diddy dum dum. That song was never recorded in a studio. They performed it at a Jelly Bean Benitez night at a club called the Funhouse in 1983. The only recording, it says live from the Funhouse. And you hear Jam Master Jay going from turntable to turntable every 4 bars of the beat. There was no instrumental and there was no serrato and no loops. He was looping it every 4 bars. That means every 7 seconds about. So I said, I'm gonna do that. If I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it real. And Jay Z later used that for 99 Problems. I have 99 problems, but a bitch ain't one. Hit me, boom, it's those drums. The drums have been used a million times. So I So Stevie's now sitting at a keyboard. I'm now behind the turntables, and the president has now announced us and walks off stage. And I go, chicka 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 boom, ka-clack, boom, boom, ka-clack, boom, ka-clack, clack, boom, clack. Two more bars, boom, ka-clack, clack, boom, clack, boom, ka-clack, clack, boom, chicka 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 boom. And I'm really doing it. And I could have looped it in Serato, and I didn't. I said, I'm gonna really do it like Jam Master Jay. And suddenly he starts, dan, 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 and he starts singing Signed, Sealed, Delivered, I'm Yours, playing the keyboard over it. Okay? The crowd goes crazy, and I look to my right and see Jay Z and Chris Rock nodding their head with the most forceful conviction to this beat like this. Boom, clack, clack, boom. With that face you make when something's so dope, but you look like you want to kill someone. Like it's this face. Like that. How do you describe that face? Like that mean, boom, clack, clack, boom, clack. Like this is the most hip hop moment ever taking place at the White House. Because I was doing something Jam Master Jay did with Run DMC with Stevie Wonder at the White House.
You know what I love about that? In that moment, when I said to you at the beginning, you own the moment, then you also own the respect of the moment. You pulled from history, from legacy. There's something very powerful in that that feels like it is so authentic to who you are and who I've experienced. Let's close with this. Okay?
That whole thing, by the way, was 30 seconds, not the performance. The conversation with Stevie and me saying "got you" and him walking out and saying that and me walking out was 30, maybe 60.
Maybe 60.
Maybe 60.
Let's put a wrap around this. What's the moral of your story? What's the anthem that represents who you are as Cass, as your friends call you? I think it's powerful for people. It doesn't mean that there's going to be another kid out there with a boombox or something on the back of a bus, but what's the moral of your story that we could relate to?
I should say first, I feel presumptuous trying to offer a moral to my story like I'm at the end of the road and have the wisdom of a lifetime to look back. I mean, you've brought out, in some senses, in the past hour, more like poetic thoughts about myself than I have on my own, which is a testament to you. So I don't want to be so presumptuous to claim I have the moral to my story. But I could offer maybe one potential. I think that all of my highs have stemmed from celebrating the people and things that inspired me. And so I continue to do so.
Honoring those that came before you in a very deliberate and passionate way. Well, what a treat to welcome someone you didn't know into your world for the last 3 days. And there's just a genuineness about you that I've got great appreciation for.
Thank you.
It's inspiring. I don't have your talent, but like we talked before we got in here, sort of, I welcomed you into my DJ booth.
Well, you have another talent, because I meant it when I said that, like when I was talking to Williams the past week about the crowd. We got to get the crowd right. We got to get the seating right, because artists feed off their crowd. And just on a side note, and I'm not saying this because I'm here for them, but I perform at a lot of events. And I go to a lot of events, and Williams curated an amazing event with amazing people. And they say, some say artists shouldn't blame their tools. I don't know how much I believe that. Tools are important, A sound system's important. The crowd's important. It's not about blaming your tools, but tools are important. And there's 400,000 people here for the race this weekend, but Williams got 2,000 of the most energetic, fun people in town who seem to love music, who seem to want to dance, who seem to want to sing, and that made my job easy. But where was I going with this? There was a point. I don't know how I got to that, but I'm sure when you listen back, you'll remember, but I got carried away. But I know the point I was trying to make at large, which was, I know what I was saying. The way the crowd brought out, I think, the best in us, because the crowd was feeding us. You brought out things that I typically might not have articulated. And that's your talent. So when you say not as talented, maybe not the same talent, but.
It takes two to tango, and it's about people and humanity and understanding. In a world that is becoming less authentic, I think it's incredible to celebrate authenticity and humility, and you've got it in spades. Keep crushing it. You've inspired me. God knows I'm paying for that concert even to this moment. But for all the best reasons. Keep it up, and I look forward to catching up with you in the future.
Thank you so much. This was great.
Thanks for taking the plunge into Headroom, where we uncover the why behind the what and who impacting our lives. Headroom is a production of Rainlight and co-produced by our friends at Old Soul. I'm your host, Dr. Rod Berger, and this is Headroom.